on the horizon. It's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society. But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts not seen since a dawn of time in ages bypast? But you can find true forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio, freedomsluts.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history.
General Homer, you've got to get us out of here now! I won't let you down. I won't let you down, son.
Revolution.
And good morning. Welcome to Morning Coffee Rants with Dan. I am Dan, the Spiritual Anarchist, your host. Today is June 4th in the year of all of us, 2026. My bulk of my work right now could be found on YouTube at Spiritual Anarchist, Daniel AR 5907. That's Spiritual Anarchist, Daniel AR 5907 on YouTube. And I'm also on the onegreatworknetwork.com/Dan-Arnold, ARNOLD. So, I want to start off by saying we're not going to get to any solutions to the problems that we're facing if we don't know what the main problem is. Okay? We can go about doing what mainstream Western medicine does and treat symptoms, but not cure the problem. We need to cure the problem. So you have to zoom out a little bit to be able to properly diagnose what is the problem. Okay? So I'm not going to get into these little individual problems in depth, but like one problem is the problem with or war on masculinity, or what is masculinity, right? Everyone wants to label something and define it more better than it's already been defined. We have to start asking the question, why is there a need for this in the first place? Who benefits by all the different conflicts and let's just say, categories that they want to put everybody into. Once you name something, you negate it. You're trying to put it into a box. And it's used for division. So understand some of the things that are happening in the world today. Nothing is happening now that isn't contrived and doesn't serve the greed, selfish, driven goals of evil people. Okay? There's an agenda called Agenda 21. Look it up. It's on the WHO website. Agenda 2030. Look it up. Nothing is happening now that isn't planned for something bigger. It's cause and effect. If you zoom out and you can look at the whole picture holistically, you won't be arguing over the low-hanging fruit. You won't be discussing the problem with the upholstery at the top of the stairs on the Titanic. You'll be discussing what is causing the Titanic to sink. What do we need to do to survive the sinking of the Titanic? And trauma is something we need to address, because if trauma isn't addressed, we're not going to really be able to look outside of ourselves for anything else. You're not going to be able to see the big picture. You're going to be in a reactionary mode, looking at this issue or that issue or this problem or that problem, instead of what is causing the problem and what is the goal of those causing it. I've said it quite a few times, and I'll continue to say it. 6 years ago, in 2020, the whole world, every government in the world, worked in tandem together, locked the whole world down and put diapers on our faces, okay, for a fake virus. One that was driven at making money. If they're able to work that good together, why are we at a world war now if it's not benefiting somebody? I'm gonna bring you in this circular level of logic, okay? This dysfunctional loop of thought process that says humans can't be trusted and they need to be governed by other humans who can't be trusted, and they need to be governed by other humans who can't be trusted, and they need to be governed. Do you see the logical fallacy in that? Do you see the contradiction in that? If humans can't be trusted and they need to be governed by other humans, or those just disguised as humans? I've been called a conspiracy theorist. I've got a lot of theories. And I also acknowledge there are a lot of real conspiracies. Wayne Dyer once said, "We're not doing anything. We're just being done." And how many different mind control mechanisms are in play at any given time? How many of us in this matrix actually have freedom of will, free will? Do only some of us have true free will, and everyone else has got strings attached to them, being forced to be part of this play for the fake God that rules this planet, for the devil that has us all trapped here on this soul garden prison planet? This loosh farm that feeds off of your fear and your shame. How long are we going to play along? How long are people going to follow orders above them without questioning those orders for money? Again, nothing is happening now that is not contrived. Okay? We have to heal our trauma so we can not accept contradictions within our belief systems. Because trauma will keep us in avoidance. It keeps people in this avoidance. And it's not your fault. What happened to you isn't your fault, but it's your responsibility to heal so you do not minimize the victimhood of others. And so you don't inadvertently pay your trauma forward, because hurt people will hurt people if they are constantly viewing everything through the lens of their past trauma. And this is something everyone has to work on. In fact, I'm working on some of it. But see, not to the big level where it needs to be worked on, like some people need to work on it. So again, everything that happens for a reason. So I heard in the news, I'm going to go over some news so I can paint this picture of why these things are happening. Understand what their bigger goal is. When you know the end goal, you won't waste time arguing over the low-hanging or grounded fruit. You won't waste time arguing over the minutia, over the upholstery pattern on a chair on the Titanic while the Titanic is sinking. The mechanics reportedly are quitting their jobs in large numbers. Let me take a sip of my morning coffee. Mechanics are quitting their jobs in large numbers. Oh my God, all over the place. That's a coincidence, isn't it? Could it be because they don't want people to own motorized vehicles that aren't smart cars that can be controlled by your rulers in smart cities? That's the end goal, and that's not the end goal. That's just one of the end goals in instituting a new world government. Everything happening now serves the new world government agenda. Okay, and I would have no problem with a new world order of love and higher consciousness. But a new world government, a one world government governing us and controlling us in complete slavery. So when mechanics are quitting their jobs, who's going to fix these cars? Also in the news, just a few days after that, and I'm seeing it pop up here and there, junkyards all over the country are magically and coincidentally, they're catching on fire. And nobody's wondering why. Because if they're all gone, you won't be able to get those parts you need to fix your vehicle. They want complete control. I'm sorry, no force ever throughout human history who's wanted complete control ever been the good guys. Okay? Recently, in North Carolina, there was a high school valedictorian who said some unapproved statements during the welcoming speech to the crowd. And her statements were about free speech and how she's speaking for the people who don't have voices of their own. And she named off some of the things going on in Sudan and some of the things that are going on in Palestine and different places where civilians are being victimized by governments. And she was pulled off stage by her principal. Her principal with no principles. Anytime freedom of speech is being limited, I don't care what you're saying, if you're not speaking and trying to incite others into violence, and you're merely pointing out the violence that's already being committed, you have to start asking the bigger questions and ask why. Why is it wrong for me to use the F word? And I'm not banned from using it. I'm just saying, why is it wrong or offensive when somebody uses profanity to describe their righteous anger that they have about injustices that are going on all around us But the kidnapping, slave labor, rape, beheading of other human beings and children is perfectly fine. Well, and it's not, of course, but no one's crying about that because everyone's stuck in their politics. So again, we have to ask, when something starts happening, we have to ask and look at the bigger picture why. So we're in a population control and population coal agenda. Right now, it's currently both is going on. I've talked a lot about religion on the show. Okay, religion will just tie you back from and thwart you from forward progress. Religion and government work at controlling you. It's all they are is controlling mechanisms. And I often wonder, how long is this population coal and control and feed them confusing contradictions? How long has it been going on in this Soul Garden prison planet filled with shame, fear? The Bible said if you look at somebody's woman, blah, 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 you have already committed a sin, pluck out your eye. Okay. So they're not trying to throw in contradictions and shame-based people from normal attractions? That isn't some type of population control agenda back then even? We have to start looking at the similarities in history and start pointing out the patterns. So complaining about certain things, let's just say, for instance, complaining about data centers. We have to ask a question. Do they not already have a means to collect large amounts of data on everyone, and indeed have done so? So these data centers are going to be for the collection of data that AI has on everybody. Because AI is a tool that's being used, but it's also being used against us because it's collecting information for the powers that should not be. Okay, I understand. I think AI is a tool that can aid humanity, but it's being used and weaponized in a bad, slave-minded kind of way. So people will die on the hill of data centers instead of asking the bigger question, what are they trying to accomplish through this? Fear-mongering. Power shortages. A few years ago when they had all the different facilities that were magically catching on fire, these chemical facilities that were ruining the ground and the earth, and farms being bought up, animals slaughtered for nothing, train routes that delivered food, boat routes that delivered food, having all these coincidences where they're all being destroyed. And no one asks the bigger questions. Because you're stuck in your phone, you're stuck in your ego, and you're stuck in your bullshit. They create the problem so they can achieve their greed-driven goal with their solutions. Who are they? They're the ones who fucking own you. The biggest rhetorical question I get from somebody who votes, who are they? You don't know who they are because you're retarded. They're the ones who rule you, who are having the strings pulled on them for those who rule them. That's who they are. And they want a one-world slave government where you don't have any say in anything. It's all ego and greed-driven, ego run amok. And this isn't human-driven. There's a reason why they're all of a sudden disclosing extraterrestrials. And extraterrestrials are not the enemy. But there is a faction of them who are. What makes us think they're any different than us? We've mimicked them throughout all of history. There's something in between the high, maybe real extraterrestrials and something else that could be hybrid, but something is running this that isn't completely human. I'm convinced of it because humans are too lazy. Again, another problem. The homelessness in California, that I like to call jokingly Chinafornia, they've put up all these detention facilities, right? ICE detention facilities. It's really going to equal forced labor because they're going to take the homeless and they're going to mentally test them for being homeless and then put them in these facilities and force them to work. They create the homeless problem themselves. They create it, and now they've got free labor for these concentration camps that they're calling detention facilities. Human beings should be able to go anywhere they want in this entire planet. So you have to start asking yourself questions. Why do you trust the government? Don't they lie? Don't humans lie? Have you ever been lied to? People in power don't want to keep their power? Why do you let them have this magical right to rule you? They're not granted any powers that, under God's creation, no human being has a right to lord over, rule, or coerce another human being. Now, if you're bringing harm to somebody, you need to be taken out of the village, so to speak. Everyone has a right to intervene and should actually intervene when the harm of physical harm is being done to somebody, when somebody is being abused. Understand that dark psychology is leveled against all of us to create division. And they like these categories. They like to label us and put us into different categories. And what are some of the issues we face because of these categories? Gender. Okay. Problem with masculinity. Okay. You'll have some people that are men, goofballs, who will be a problem with femininity. There's not a problem with either of them, other than the war on humanity. It's not a war on femininity or masculinity. There is no such thing as hyphenation. You don't have to hyphen the word toxic with a gender trait. There's masculine, there's feminine, and then there's toxic. So what's the war really about as far as gender is concerned? Well, if we're going to go with the premise that we are in a population control agenda and call agenda for a one world government, it behooves them to create these problems between men and women. Less procreation will happen then. It behooves them to obfuscate gender and to trick women into thinking their power comes from acting like a man. See, it's really a war on testosterone. Testosterone levels are dropping in men in the last 30 years. They've dropped drastically, and that's because of the chemicals we eat. We're not eating, food's supposed to be medicine, we're eating poison. It's because the chemicals in different soaps and shampoos. So when the testosterone levels start to drop, it don't just drop in men, it drops in women. It makes men more receptive and more inactive, and it makes women more harder, meaner. Okay, testosterone is the sex hormone. Women need it too. It's the action hormone. It's the one that makes me get pissed. The one that gives me sacred anger. To focus anger to take some type of right, true action and speak some truth into the world. You'll never catch me at some No Kings, what was it? The No Kings March or whatever they call it. The No Kings protest. All you did was take a bunch of taxpayers' dollars, and all the cops that had to be there got paid time and a half. Not one thing was done. They were laughing at you. That's not the way to real change. Changing the hearts and minds of human beings is the way we're going to have real change. Violence will beget more violence. So being violent is ridiculously stupid because all it's going to do is cause more violence. You might solve a problem temporarily, but it's coming back. We have to actually change the way we think, which means healing different things within us so we can look at things a little more objectively. All these different problems, and not besides gender, another one's race. We are one human race. The human condition since 5000 BCE has been slavery of one kind or another and several kinds for all eternity. That's all we've had. Every race has had slaves of every race. End of story. Ball and chattel slavery isn't the only kind. However, we got plenty of that going on with unjust laws and free labor in these camps they're going to be having in prisons. And then, what about all the human trafficking? They're not just all trafficked for sex. They're trafficked for fucking slave labor, too. We're going to table that for now because our politicians said this and this, and we have to, vote more harder. And if we vote more harder, we'll get these corrupt pieces of shit to undo what these corrupt pieces of shit did. And let's just keep voting more harder because that gives us power and choice. And here's the bullshit. If you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain. The fuck I don't. If you vote, you don't have a right to complain. Non-voters have a right to complain. Because we're at a more zoomed out stage. We can see the ridiculousness of the games both play to get to your emotions. To get you in your natural prejudice. See, you won't do the mirror work to say, where am I prejudiced at? What are my shortcomings and what am I prejudiced against? And that prejudice that's there, what trauma caused that? How do I heal that trauma? How do I come to peace with it? You have to have true love. You have to have enough love to have real care. Let me take a sip of my coffee. Yeah, we're not doing anything. We're just simply being done. I'm going to get into something here that is, we can call it the laws of freedom, but it's the 10 laws of universal love. Because love is the law under courage, love is the law under will, love is the law under everything that's worth doing. Anything done with fear usually yields pretty bad consequences. Trust me, I know. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the presence of fear and still having the ability to function despite that fear. So in this state, in this way, love is not really an emotion here. It's a governing principle. Like the kind that principal in North Carolina didn't have. When she pulled a girl off stage who had more courage than every adult there. Some 18-year-old girl graduating had the courage to say something that so many people don't have the common sense or courage to say. I had a Southern trainer once say, I don't believe in common sense, because if it was common, more people would have it. He was a very smart man. That's very true. So the governing principle of love, the force that moves beings toward truth, alignment in life, that principle says we don't distort the truth. We don't and do not coerce others to do something they don't want to do. We don't diminish another. And we don't abandon what is true. We don't drop the truth when it's convenient. You don't diminish another. That goes back to saying, hey, if I don't have nothing nice to say, I'll say nothing at all. If it's about an individual. We want to build people up. Because if we don't do that on the personal level, what we get on the big level is people ruling us, or beings ruling us. I'm not convinced they're not some of these creatures that are in charge in this world. I'm not convinced that some of them aren't clones. Personally, that's just a theory. It's not an actual conspiracy that I can actually point to and say I know for sure. But I do think this isn't human driven. So if love is the governing principle, it doesn't distort, coerce, diminish, or abandon what is true. Everything else is going to actually grow from that foundation. And sovereignty, which is our birthright. We're sovereign at birth. It's sacred. Universal love never violates free will. It never forces, manipulates, or binds. And see, this is where I think there are some forces that can manipulate free will. Okay, not the devil made me do it, but literally, I'm seeing some strange things. Anything that requires coercion is not love. If it requires some type of distorting of the truth, it's not love. If it requires some type of sacrifice or of yourself in a certain kind of way, it's not love. You have to be true to yourself and love yourself to love anything else around you, or you lose yourself. Good luck with that fight. Love will always honor boundaries because the boundary is where truth lives. I also say, in a self-defense standpoint, if you don't set a boundary, you won't know the intention of someone else. When they cross that boundary, you can get a good indication of their intentions and of their character and take appropriate action in that situation with that person to not have them in your life if need be. So, law is the love under the law of return. What is done in love, with love, it returns in strength. What is done with fear or in fear returns in pain. That's the mirror of the universe. What you're vibrating at is what's going to come back to you. We're emotional beings. Sometimes it's hard to control. But if you can start by being aware of it, you can start controlling it a little bit better. Anytime I get angry, there's a little bit of an emotion that comes out. And I might use a word here or there of a profanity or this, or I might raise my voice, but then it comes back down. I have control of myself. Anything done when you act against your nature, and our nature is to love, is going to result in chaotic consequences. And think about what's happening in the world. Love protects life, not with sentiment or softness or passivity. Universal law defends the innocent, the vulnerable, the truthful, and those who are becoming better people. Fear does the opposite of all those things. Uncontrolled anger, frivolous anger, anger that you're using to mask shame for something you did or didn't do. You're losing all your sovereignty when you don't keep your word along those lines. You're supposed to help people. Helping others is helping yourself. Hurting others ultimately is hurting yourself. That's the law of one. Are you going to be a guardian, a protector? My order followers, to anyone listening to the show, I spent 25 years in law enforcement. I had a couple years in the Marine Corps during the first Gulf War. I thank God I didn't go over there. I thank all 5,000 gods being worshipped that I didn't go over there to murder for resources for rich people who don't give a shit about me. This was proven over and over again in this country. If you're in the order following business as a cop with a gun strapped on your side, and you're just blindly bringing harm to people because it's the law now, you're not following God's law. The karma is going to fall directly on your shoulders. It always does. This is why they have the saying, live by the sword, die by the sword. Same thing with the pen. I can't allow the harm of somebody in any way, shape, or form without saying or doing something about it and attempting to stop it. And they try to disguise their harm. They try to obfuscate it through fake altruism and safety. For your safety, anytime safety starts getting in the way of individual rights, it's slavery, it's not safety. This is why love reveals, and it requires courage. Love reveals, it does not conceal. Love brings things into clarity. It exposes what is real, and it will dissolve any illusions. If something must be hidden to survive, it's not hidden, it's not aligned with universal law. So they're hiding the real reasons on why people are being murdered in that sense. There's some people that need to be hidden. That's a little bit different. Love requires courage. Love under courage. Love without courage collapses into fear. Courage without love collapses into violence. So you need both. Love will seek wholeness and not perfection, okay? If I was going to wait till I had all the knowledge I thought I needed to start teaching natural law, to start teaching God's law, if I started waiting to everything about how I speak, my knowledge of technology and computer science, and everything I need to be the best influencer and speaker I could possibly be, I would have never started speaking 7 years ago, before the 2020 scamdemic. I knew something was coming. Boy, I didn't know it was going to be like that. And what's going now, and I have friends who are in law enforcement who said we're going to get our pound of flesh back for what they did to us in 2020. You're being a political automaton when you do that. Because what they did in 2020 was to pave the way, to give the excuse for what's being done in 2026. And all this is leading up to what they want to do in 2030, which is enslave us all in smart cities with smart cars. I think reality is more fantastical. Science fiction, Lord of the Rings, more fantastical, Buck Rogers, Star Wars, you name it, than anybody would ever realize. These are things they don't want you to know. Whatever work you're going to do, whatever you're going to say, it's not going to be perfect. Put it out there. People are going to judge you anyway. People are going to judge me no matter what I do, so I'm going to speak. I don't really give a shit. Okay, this is something that I've had to learn. The next one, number 8, love aligns. It does not chase. You know, and they say, if you love something, let it go free, and if it loved you, it'll come back, and if it doesn't, it never did. So you have to recognize when things are, when you're in resonance with somebody, when you're not. So you don't cling, you don't grasp, you don't beg. Because love will recognize what is ready and what is not, what is aligned, and what is incompatible. And I have an ability to get to people's prejudice really quickly. I sometimes do it accidentally. I'm so used to doing it because that's how you find out information about people. If I know I'm dealing with somebody who's had a lot of trauma, I'll be careful about what I say once I know what the trauma is. That's how you deal with people with compassion. If it's somebody who's less than ethical and even maybe a little bit of a narcissistic sociopath, I'll kind of like stay away a little bit. Sometimes people don't reveal themselves right away. There's a lot of masks falling off right now. Number 9, love is reciprocal across time. I'll even say it's reciprocal across time and space. Across every dimension, love is there. It's the one thing that goes anywhere. So sometimes love isn't reciprocated in that moment, maybe not even always in the same lifetime, but love will return. It wins in the end. Not always, but it is the most powerful force in the universe. We need to start doing things according to love. And love and kindness aren't always going to sound or be nice. Sometimes kindness is going to be very rude. Sometimes the truth, often the truth, very rude because it's in direct opposition to lies, to manipulators, coercion. But it will return. And as I was leaning at, love is the only thing that does survive death. I've had a lot of people pass. I still love them. And I know they still love me. They've come to me through spiritual mediums. They've come to me without spiritual mediums. I don't need a medium to communicate. I don't need a medium or intermediary to communicate with Source, with God Most High. Not the bearded dude in the desert sky who's the devil. I always almost say devil sky. Yeah, the bearded guy in the desert sky. That's the biggest trick played on us by the deceiver, which is written right in the New Testament. The King James Version, the one that was approved by a man, instead of the ones that were hidden, buried in the desert. So love survives death. It will persist as a structure in this universe. This is why in the movie Hellboy, when Hellboy's love interest was dying, he loved her, and he whispered, "Don't take her, because for her I'll cross over to the other side, and then you'll be sorry." That's beautiful. We can learn lessons in everything we watch. I can get into The Last Samurai, for instance. When the Shogun is in the rose blossom, cherry blossom garden with Tom Cruise, and he's being all sageful, and he says you could spend a whole life trying to find the perfect flower, and it would not be a life wasted. Only when he was dying on the battlefield did he say perfect. They're all perfect. There might be a devil that created this world, but there's a lot of beauty. And if you take the time to look around, you'll see the beauty. You'll see nature. You'll see synchronicities. And then you'll be reminded of who you really are. You'll remember who you are. And it makes you harder to be manipulated. You become a harder person to be fooled or bamboozled or lied to. You become a human lie detector. In a world full of all this static that's purposely created to keep you confused, distracted, low attention span, frivolous anger, not righteous anger that's directed at something unjust with correct action to try to do something about it, but just frivolous anger. And don't get me wrong, I will have frivolous anger in my own house. Trust me. Watch me spill something or drop something on my foot. You'll see frivolous anger. I'm talking about frivolous anger in the world that actually has some type of an effect in a negative way on another person. The same thing with lying. No, honey, your butt doesn't look big in those jeans. Oh, I love your haircut. Oh, no, that looks fine. That looks good. No, yeah. No, dude, you're not fat. You're all right. Listen, there's these little fibs that are meant to safeguard somebody you care about's feelings, right? If you're going to tell somebody something because it's for their health, you might have a more tactful way of putting it. But you're not going to tell them the exact truth in some brutal kind of way. It's the little white lies or fibs are okay. I'm talking about the lies that cause people to think voting is going to change some shit. Or, your side's messed up, but the other side's more messed up. Choosing the lesser of what you conceive to be evil is still evil. The lesser of two evils is still evil. And as long as we don't look at what God's natural laws are, what are the spiritual laws, the laws of our behavior that operate in this 3D reality, like the law of gravity that operates, you let go of something, you hold it up, let go of it, it's going to fall. You can't see this magical force of gravity, but you can see its effects. Well, you treat somebody like shit, you lie to somebody about something, you hurt somebody, it will come back to you in this life or the next. I know somebody who lied, accepted lies, and accepted the pain of someone being victimized, and they lost their job not soon after, like within a year. Because everything they were doing was coming from a space of fear instead of a space of love. Or they let the Hermetic principle of polarity take over with love, and the other end of love is hate. It's the same solid emotion. It's on the same frequency. Love and hate vibrate on the same frequency. They're the same thing. Hate is just a different degree than love. Love is a different degree than hate. But they're the same thing. So hate isn't the opposite of love. Fear is the opposite of love. To me, what aligns with hate is indifference. If you're indifferent to other people's pain, if you're indifferent to these children being murdered, you're in alignment with evil. Your indifference is toxic. If we're going to hyphenate a word, let's hyphenate toxic indifference. So foolish, so foolish. I'm probably going to be ending this show about 5 minutes early because I didn't make a big show today. I'm just trying to get a point across. Quit giving up your sovereignty by relying on authority that does not exist under God's creation to do everything for you. True freedom under natural law, true living without a ruler and archon, true anarchon means responsibility, accountability. You're not giving your power away. Because you can't just give some of it away, you give all of it away. And we don't want to do that. So let me see. With that being said, oh wow, nature's going crazy around here. Beautiful outside. I got a nice view. I live very close to nature, so I'm blessed right now. Get out in nature. Remember who you are. Remember that you were born sovereign, you were born free. All right, man, I think that's going to be it for today. Let me see if I have anything else. No, I think that's going to be about it for today, man. So until next Thursday, stay safe. We're well into the year. We're halfway through. Let's see what the second half brings. I can predict that probably from around June 6th, right on continuing and moving forward. I shouldn't give dates like that because I don't know what the hell's going to happen. But I just have a feeling this month is not going to be uneventful. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of stuff happening. They're going to amp up the squeezing. So take some time to love as hard as you can and live in the moment with people you love. As I'm telling you, when you're on your deathbed, all the petty things you worry about aren't going to matter. I know. I was there. I think next week I'm going to talk completely about supernatural and cryptid things. I've got all kinds of that stuff go on. Live in an amazing world. Anyway, until next week, man. Peace out. Nothing but love.